Did the federal government just crash Canada's real estate market? Hey there, welcome back to Bald Prairie Real Estate. My name is Matthew Pfeifer, real estate agent in Regina, Saskatchewan. That's my trusted assistant, 𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗲, and the federal government made a big announcement today. Some are saying it's going to crash the Canadian real estate market. This is the weekly news recap here on Bald Prairie Real Estate, where I go through what I think are the most interesting Canadian real estate related news topics, and I give you my thoughts and opinions on them. But of course, we got to start off with another one of my terrible bad dad jokes. The other day, I accidentally took 10 minutes of video on my cell phone of my feet. It was excellent footage. If you have a terrible joke I can use in a future episode, put it in the comments below. Let's get into this week's Canadian real estate news. Let's start off talking about the Bank of Canada's supersized interest rate cut announcement. In my poll question asking what the Bank of Canada was going to do, 51% of you answered correctly that the Bank of Canada would cut interest rates 50 basis points. Surprisingly though, 8% of you said the Bank of Canada was going to raise interest rates. And honestly, please tell me that's just you guys trolling me.
Come on, really?
That means we've had 1.25% in interest rate cuts so far this year from the Bank of Canada. For those of you that watched my 2024 Canadian real estate market predictions video, thank you. I had expected there would be 1.25% in cuts this year, but remember, we still have one more meeting to go here. That's going to come up in December. And already the expectations are another 50 basis point cut from the Bank of Canada, potentially even 75 basis points. That would be a massive supersized rate cut from the Bank of Canada. If we get those cuts 50 or 75 basis points, that means Bank of Canada is going to have cut interest rates close to 2% so far in 2024. That saves the average homeowner in Canada on a variable rate mortgage that has the average house about $700 to $800 a month. Obviously, that's a very significant amount at this point. Now, I'm curious, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe let's start taking some bets. How much does the Bank of Canada actually cut interest rates in their next meeting? This next article is talking about what the Bank of Canada is going to do in 2025, and the expectation is even more rate cuts. This article was written before the Bank of Canada's recent announcement, but they were all predicting that was going to happen anyways. The expectation from all these banks, though, is that the Bank of Canada is going to continue to cut rates in 2025, potentially as much as 1.75% by the end of 2025. That would mean the Bank of Canada's rate would be around 2 to 2.5%. And so we would likely see variable rate mortgages in that 3, maybe 3.5% range. And there's a possibility if the Bank of Canada cuts all the way down to 2%, we could see mortgages, at least variable rate mortgages, with a 2 in front of them and not 3s and 4s. This article also goes on to talk about what's going to happen with the Canada 5-year bond. That, of course, is what has an influence as to what happens with fixed rates. Now, I got a really good question on a previous video from a viewer asking why fixed rates seem to have bottomed out and really aren't changing much right now. And I'm doing a video on that. I think it's going to be a really fun question to tackle. If you have a great question, let me know in the comments below, because I'm really enjoying doing videos based on the questions you guys give me. But this forecast here from these different banks has the 5-year bond rate being as low as 2% or potentially as high as 3.75%. Obviously, that's a very wide spread. Now, generally, you're going to see fixed rates about 1 to 1.5% higher than what the 5-year bond is. So that would mean that fixed rates could be potentially as low as 3% or as high as 4.75%. But it would also mean that if all of these forecasts end up coming true, and again, they're projecting a year out and a lot can happen between now and then, we'd likely see what we've started to see already, and that is variable rates now dropping below fixed rates. It's been inverse now for basically 2 years, where fixed rates have been cheaper than variable rates, and that's generally not the case. Almost always, variable rates are lower than fixed rates. You pay a little bit more for the security of knowing that your payment is not going to change month to month. And speaking of interest rates, let's give you this week's best mortgage interest rates. When I started doing this segment, I wasn't really sure if this was something you guys would like, and it's been awesome to see how much you guys really enjoy this section. So I'm going to keep doing it here. But as always, please remember that just because this is the lowest rate you could get doesn't mean it's the best mortgage rate available to you. and that mortgage rates vary by region across the country, and of course by each borrower. Starting off with insured mortgages, the best 3-year rate I could find was 4.44 through Radius, and that is an increase from last week. The best 5-year fixed was 4.29, also through Radius, and that's an increase from last week. When it comes to 5-year variable rates, that's of course where we are seeing the drops. The adjustable rate was 4.95 through Marathon, of course a drop, and the static variable 5% through Manulife, also a drop. When it comes to uninsurable mortgages, the best 3-year I could find was 4.79 through B2B, and that is an increase from last week. The best 5-year fixed rate I could find, 4.69 through Manulife, and an increase from last week. On the variable side of things, the best adjustable, 5.44 through TD, a drop, and the best static, 5.45 through Strive, also a drop. When it comes to the big 5 banks, here's the best 5-year fixed payment insured mortgage rates I could find. CIBC at 4.34, unchanged. Bank of Montreal, 4.45, unchanged. TD, 4.49, unchanged. RBC, 4.74, unchanged. And Scotiabank, 4.79, also unchanged. If you have found a better rate than this, please let me know in the comments below and where it came from, so I can post it next week if they have the same rate. Will these immigration changes the government is promising to make crash Canada's real estate market? Let's find out. Starting off with the details, they're going to reduce immigration levels for permanent residents from the current 500,000 new permanent residents per year down to 395,000 in 2025, 380,000 in 2026, and 365,000 in 2027. Remember though that from 2000 to 2015, Canada had been very consistent at approximately 225,000 permanent residents admitted every single year. The government has also promised to cap temporary residents, so that is temporary foreign workers, visitor visas, international students, etc., to 5% of the population. And I've continued to say that's an important metric because you of course have 2 options: reduce the number of temporary permits or increase the percentage that are permanent residents. And the government has been promising this for basically a year, and we've still seen one of the largest years on record for temporary visas in Canada. This is what they are promising though, that in 2025, that cap will be 445,000. It'll be 445,000 in 2026, but they're going to increase it in 2027 to 465,000. Does this announcement then mean that we are basically guaranteed to see the Canadian real estate market crash? I think that's the easy answer to say immigration down, crash absolutely imminent, but I think there's far more that you have to dive into here, so let's do that right now. When you take even the lower end of these numbers, that still means about 820,000 people coming to Canada in a single year. Now, we see that roughly 2.5 people live in a house in Canada. These numbers can be skewed really quickly though. You go down to 2.4 or go up to 2.6 and then change these numbers dramatically. I'm just gonna use 2.5 right now. But if you have 820,000 people coming to the country, you need approximately 330,000 homes to house each and every one of them. But our best year in Canada, if you're watching my video last week, I talked about this, we had about 275,000 homes built, and we're on track this year to see about 200,000 homes built. Can you see the problem coming here?
Forge the path to this very special day.
Assuming the government actually hits all of the targets that they have announced, and it seems as of late this government loves to announce things, less so much on actually getting them done, well, we still have a problem. And I understand that temporary workers and international students, we're not going to see 400,000 new every single year, that some of them will come for a couple of years and then leave. But even still, you can see we have a disconnect in terms of population growth and our ability to build homes for people in Canada. And if we try to look past the fact that we already have a shortage of houses in Canada, anybody telling you that we didn't already have an existing shortage of homes in Canada, well, they're either intentionally misleading you or they just don't know. I've seen a lot of people saying that because, of course, we've seen a big jump in listings and active listings in some cities in Canada saying, see, there was no shortage of housing. Don't mistake a temporary blip in active inventory for a structural deficiency in the number of homes in Canada. But we're not going to build enough, even with the reduced immigration targets, in a country where we already don't have enough homes for the people that currently live in Canada. Yeah, this doesn't speak to making housing more affordable or more accessible.
Easy go, little high.
Now, maybe I'm being too hard on the government. At least they have finally realized that this is a problem and this is a step in the right direction. But by no means is this a solution to the problem. Really, at least if you're asking me, this is just making a very bad problem slightly worse. And I think we're going to be talking about the lack of affordability, the lack of available homes in Canada for years to come, until we get all levels of government of all political stripes to get on board and actually get homes built and match population growth with their ability to construct those homes. And they have to also be homes that people actually want to live in. A one-bedroom condo does not serve a family of 4. If you love learning about the Canadian real estate market, well, this is my most recent monthly Canadian real estate market update. If you love this video, please give me a like on this video. Subscribe to Bald Prairie Real Estate so you don't miss the next weekly news recap. And as always, thanks very much for watching.